Hello, David.
Hello, Santos.
How are you, mate?
Good. How you doing?
Really well, thanks.
Oh, that's great.
Now, do you want video or just audio?
Yeah, video would be great if you have it available.
Oh, you're going to film this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me hope I've got everything nice and tidy. I guess I have.
That's cool.
I didn't sort of, do I have to? Do I have to come?
Nah, you look great, son.
Yeah. Am I dressed all right? I mean,
yeah.
I haven't.
No, you look great. You look great.
Oh, good.
And it's all about the spirit, anyways, right, my friend?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, it was great to talk to you yesterday briefly, and just sort of get to introduce myself a little bit. And I must say it's a real honor to be able to talk to you. And as I said, I've been following your work for about a year now, and I've watched every presentation I can get my hands on. And man, you really have a very unique way of weaving this together. And I just wondered if you wanted to just sort of share what sort of really inspired you to look deeper than maybe you would have done before. What really got you into getting into all of these different areas and expanding your mind?
Love of truth. I think it's love of truth, because I was never really satisfied, although I said I was satisfied when I was a Christian, an active Christian. I would say I was satisfied, but there was always a conflict. There was always some sort of cognitive dissonance going on. Like I never accepted all of the prophecies and the explanations for the prophecies that the Jehovah's Witnesses presented. They had a book. They have a book called the Revelation Book, for instance. Now, and they study the Revelation Book, and it explains all of the revelation. Now, I might have been a real zealous, good little Christian Jehovah's Witness boy, really good little boy, but that book I could never swallow. There was something about that book and me that there's no way in a trillion years that I could accept any of that crap about their interpretation of Revelation. For example, I'll give you one little example. In Revelation, it talks about 3.5 years of suffering that God's servants would go through, etc. Well, they applied it to in 1914. The Jehovah's Witnesses were. It may have been in World War II, or either one, World War I, World War II. The governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses were arrested for around about 3.5 years. Now, they applied that in Revelation to them. And to me, that used to make me so... it used to irritate me, because that's impossible. The universe is not going to be talking about a bunch of morons that get put in jail.
Exactly. They always have these, they always try to, and they've done that many times, the Jehovah's Witnesses specifically. They've made dates and calls, and they continually get proven wrong. And when I brought that up to that one gentleman I was telling you about the other day that was always coming to my door, he completely kept avoiding the question, and I just find that interesting.
Yep, they did avoid the questions. Now, I'm already very equipped and well armed with a lot of documentation about these things. I've got stashed away. But yes, I was a participant in this type of buffoonery. I remember in 1974, I was about 11 years old, and I had bets with my cousins that the world would end in 1975. And I made $1 here and $2 there. And I remember in 1976, when the end didn't come in 1975, I had a pocket full of coins, and I was paying all my cousins back in my father's tobacco kilns. You see, I said to them, all right, come on, and we went into the shed, into the tobacco kilns, and I said, righto, how much did $5, $2, I had to pay all my cousins back because the world didn't end. Now, could an 11, 12-year-old boy, could he have made that up on his own? No, I didn't make any of that up. I got that from the Jehovah's Witnesses publications. They were definitely saying that the world was going to end in 1975. Now, I did a presentation on Sunday, and my cousin turned up, one of my cousins that I actually paid that money to. And he forgot about it, and I on camera, I'm going to put this presentation up, by the way.
Oh, cool.
On camera, I looked at him in the eye and I said, "Do you remember that I made bets that the world would end in 1975, and then in 76 I was dishing out all this money?" He goes, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I can vaguely remember that."
Wow.
Yeah.
And is he still Jehovah's Witness, or was he ever part of that, or was he?
No. All my cousins, most of my cousins were just Catholic. They stayed Catholic. They thought we were crazy, and we were. But nonetheless, they were also of a different kind of brainwashing themselves. All religions are brainwashing. That's all they do.
Yeah.
They do nothing else but brainwash.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, and I find it interesting, like even the Christian church or the Christian creed, any of these different variations of it. I mean, what is there, like 30,000 or so registered different denominations?
Yeah.
And they all are actually even fighting amongst themselves. And you find this even in other religions as well. You have different versions of the Muslim religion, and you have different versions of the Jewish religion, and they all, not only do they war with other religions, but they war amongst themselves as well over the same stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the reason why they're dividing Christ's kingdom, Christendom, Christendom is supposedly all of this, the kingdom, the Christ's dome, Christendom, and all the little sheep, all the little chickens, all the chicks are under the mother's wing, but it's all a divided kingdom, So it's actually Christendom. They're not, it's Christendom. They've kept all these people dumbed down, and they've told people that Jesus is a historical truth. Well, it's not a historical truth. It's a literary truth. The scriptures are literally true. They are a literary marvel. They're a masterpiece. And I've explained what this masterpiece is. I'm not the first one. I'm just doing it in my style, and hopefully the world can accept my style, because obviously, other people's style have not suited them, because this knowledge is not so abundant. I'm trying to make this knowledge abundant, but it's there.
Yeah.
And other writers have exposed this, that the Jesus Christ story is a beautiful story about biochemistry, the physiology, and how to regenerate the physiology, because Christ Jesus and the 12 apostles are the ministers of our salvation. Well, the word salvation comes from salt. And salt, there are 12 cell salts, mineral cell salts, that actually build the body. As the body has 12 systems: skeletal system, nervous system, muscular system, respiratory system, etc. Each one of the 12 signs of the zodiac governs one of those systems. Now, this is a proven fact. I can go into that. I can go into that and prove that, but what the heck? Why? Why even bother? Because if people don't want to hear it because, astrology is from the devil, I don't know anything about it, but I know that it's from the devil through brainwashing.
Yeah.
Condemnation without investigation is the height of stupidity, and all people are putting their hands up for stupidity. Oh, it's a pseudoscience. It's not. It's the mother of all sciences. And when you understand this and you realize, for instance, Capricorn rules the knees and the skeletal system. So the cell salt for Capricorn is calcium phosphate. Hello? Well, of course it's calcium, because the bones consist of about 70–80%, no, even more, I think. You might want to check that figure, but it's a very high percentage of calcium. excuse me, is in the bones. So, and Capricorn rules that. Well, Aries is in the head. It's the Lamb of God. And it rules the first of the developed systems in the womb. In embryology, Aries is the cerebrospinal system. And that is the first gland that produces all the rest of the body. Therefore, the cell salt for Aries must be the highest vibrating of the cell salts, which is potassium phosphate. So you've got potassium phosphate for the cerebrospinal system, so that it vibrates at the highest rate, and Capricorn happens to be calcium phosphate, which is for the bones, and it has a lower vibration. So it's all science. It's absolutely all science. And me, I'm just a humble musician. Okay, I might have some talents in languages. I'm a linguist. I know all my astronomy. That's because I've studied astronomy since I was a little boy, and I've mapped out all the stars. That's helped me put this together. I have been an avid reader of the Bible. I've read it over and over and over and over, backwards, upside down, underwater. I know every verse in the Bible. So I put these things together, languages, knowledge of the Bible, a little bit of science, a few facts here and there that I've accumulated in my 50 years of life. Music and harmony, all of that helps. Put these things together, do a bit of thinking, pay attention, and voila, what do you come up with? You come up always with the truth. You never fail.
Wow. Yeah, and it's so interesting because this seems to be a completely forgotten science and a desperately needed science because, I mean, we've got this whole, this has always really blown my mind about how the whole world, not only are these religions just benign belief systems where they're all, oh, that's just what I think about things. It never stops there. It becomes either a physical assault on other people to try to force these religions into people's minds, which is what happened, obviously, even referring to the Catholic faith and how that Christianity it's constantly surrounded by war. I mean, I find it funny that they've kind of always been condemning the Muslims over in the Middle East and all that for being a war country, and they have to go and save them from themselves and stop them from spreading war. I'm like, your history, the history of the West and the Christian, culture has been absolutely saturated in war. And this is my thing because they're all waving flags of peace. The Muslims are saying, no, we're a peaceful religion. We have we don't have any violence in our system. And the Christians are saying the same thing, and all the religions as well. And yet here we are. We're still killing each other. And even though people think that the Middle Ages is over, there's no such thing as the Crusades anymore, there's no such thing as those religious wars that are taking place, I mean, we still see presidents talking about, the same concepts that the popes were talking about back in the day, about how we have to liberate those people and go in and save them with capitalism and all of this. It's almost like it's become another religion,
Yeah, it has. That's what they do. The controllers, people who love to control very low vibrating energies, they gravitate towards institutions and clubs and groups and secret societies and whatnot. And from there they manipulate things from behind the scenes. They're not visible. They are the secret government behind the government. That's who rules the world. It's not the visible government. That's ridiculous. They're just CEOs. But the way they do it is quite simple. They throw away the key. They throw away the key. And Jesus condemned them. He said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees and lawyers, for you throw away the keys of knowledge, and you hinder the little ones from going into the kingdom." Muslims are doing it, Christians are doing it, Jews are doing it, Hindus are doing it. They're all guilty of doing it. They're throwing away the key. And the key is quite simple. I've explained it many times in my videos. First, you know who you are. You are the temple of Solomon. The temple of God is your body. The Bible clearly says that. And and it's the temple of Sol Amun, the soul of man. So once you know your body, then you can measure everything else. There's no other way of knowing God if you don't know your body. There's no other way of knowing the universe, science, anything, unless you know the body first. The body is the measure of everything. Man is the measure of the universe. And the zodiac helps us to do this because the zodiac wheel starts at 0 degrees here, right ascension, Aries. This is Greenwich, the Greenwich meridian right here at the top of your head. That's on the 21st of March. That is 0 degrees of Aries and 30 degrees of Pisces at the bottom of your feet. That's the end of the zodiacal wheel. So you wrap your body around a circle, and that's the zodiac. And Aries is here, Taurus is here, Gemini is here. Check out Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and you'll see the third disciple from the left. Well, from the camera perspective, the left is over there. So you see Jesus, he's sitting there in the middle of the table. He's got 6 disciples to his right, 6 to his left, and at the very, very right, you will see Aries at the top of the table, at the head of the table, with his hands at the head of the table, because Aries is here. And so the first group is grouped in 3, and that's the spring season. And just next to his right immediately is another group of 3, and that's summer. And then over here you've got autumn, and you'll see the first disciple next to Jesus on his left. He's going like this, or she is going like this, and that's Libra. Why does she have outstretched hands? Because the scales, the zodiacal sign of Libra is the scale.
Okay.
And to the right of Jesus is Virgo. And you see Cancer, the 4th disciple to the right. Cancer, he's pointing like this to Virgo's apparent absence of lack of absence of Adam's apple, indicating that she's a woman. And it's clear. And when you look at all the signs and all the disciples, you can see that Leonardo da Vinci was actually showing what he was teaching. He was a teacher of what Protagoras said 1500 years before him: man is the measure of the universe. Leonardo da Vinci said the workings of the human body are an analogy for the workings of the universe.
So when we're talking about astrology, we're not talking about just, your everyday horoscope that you're going to find in a newspaper. We're talking about an actual reading of yourself, your body, the human body, your spirit, how everything is, you're talking about the cell salts and how all these different systems have to work together. And then obviously, as above, so below, right? So as above, you have the same thing happening in the solar system, in the galaxy. Because I find it interesting, this concept, even in, you're talking about the Fibonacci sequences and the whole concept of sacred geometry and how everything works together as one system. We're basically living in a fractal. It's like a hologram where, as above, so below. No matter how deep you zoom into that hologram, you're going to find the same pattern again and again and again. So when we're reading the stars, we're really just looking at a map, right? We're really just looking at a map for how to map out who we are.
That is your body up there.
Yeah.
See, when we're having a conversation here, a virtual conversation. Well, it's a conversation, but we're seeing each other virtually, not physically. So I've never seen you with my eyes. The only sense that I've got activated that recognises you, David Whitehead, is my hearing. Now, but whilst we're having this conversation, there is always one bearing witness, and that is your. You see, you are now witnessing, noticing yourself, and witnessing yourself talking to me. You're always doing that. You can. That's why we say things like "watch yourself," Why would we say that if we couldn't watch ourselves? See, animals can't do this, but we can. We can sort of watch ourselves and say, oh, that was silly what you just did, Santos, didn't you? You just broke that cup, didn't you? Very silly of you. So here we are. We're watching. We're always bearing witness and watching ourselves. That is our higher consciousness, and that is who we are. And that's what the universe is made of. It's made of that consciousness. You see, we are just like little, like the lowest vibrating molecular part of that consciousness. But that is us. You see, now churchgoers, they are denying the higher consciousness. They are denying that one. They are calling that all these other fictional, imaginary, idealistic names, like God. You see, that's God. Oh, we'll get to God one day. Now we're just these animals that build houses and cultivate the ground and eat. But God's kingdom that's coming. You see, and in the meantime, what these ones are doing is they are denying the Christ, because the Christ is the one bearing witness. That's the one, and that's who we are. We should never deny that higher consciousness. And we've got to go into it. We should be being absorbed by it and embracing it. But churchgoers are denying that one and poo-pooing the ones that are teaching to embrace the higher consciousness.
Well, and it's interesting because isn't this exactly what the Christ character was referring to all along, and all the other pre-Christian saviors that were based on the Son and based on all of this knowledge as well. It's the fact that they're trying to show you that you are your own teacher. You are the Christ. You are the one that has to make the decision. I mean, even if you choose to believe in a higher power that rules over you, you have to make the decision to believe that. You are the one that's always actively engaged, and you are responsible for your actions. And when you hear verses in the Bible that, Jesus is saying, everything I can do, you can do in greater, or the kingdom of heaven is within you, and referencing, signs in the heavens and all these different things. I mean, when you really are turned on to this, you start to see that the whole Bible is just absolutely loaded with astrotheological references. It's teaching you this. But the church has, no doubt there are mistranslations, there are books that are missing. I mean, we didn't get the director's cut, I'm sure, I know you've talked about the Council of Nicaea and, Constantine and how historically that all kind of unfolded. I wonder if you would just, touch on that briefly, just to kind of explain to people as they're listening to this that there was actually a direct manipulation in carrying this knowledge forward,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there was. Constantine did a lot of damage by giving mankind a historically true Jesus, you see, and he went to great lengths, he and his mother, to go to the Middle East and to set up the land of Judea with, Nazareth and to have the tomb of Jesus, and they went and they established all of these historical landmarks so that they could actually make the story really, really literal once and for all. But in the Mediterranean, it never was. It was never literal, and that is indicated. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a runny nose here. That was indicated by the fact that we have hundreds of Gospels that mention Jesus, but do not mention him as a historical person. We've got all the Nag Hammadi. Here we go. We've got all the Nag Hammadi Gospels. I mean, look. There's the Apocryphon of James, the Gospel of Truth, Treatise on the Resurrection, Apocryphon of John, Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Philip. I mean, there must be 60 Gospels in this, but there's many more. Now, they found these Gospels, and they found that there was a great, great, great tradition of Gospel writing, and it was always referring to a literary person, Jesus. But Rome and Constantine changed that. They were responsible for really, really, really making it literal, historical. Justinian was also guilty. In the year 540, he and his wife concocted to remove passages in the Bible which refer to reincarnation.
Yeah.
Now, when you understand the elitist agenda, you'll know why they had to remove reincarnation from the Bible. They don't want you to know that one. They really want you to believe that that's from the devil. And quite the opposite is true. But other culprits, you can even come a little bit closer to our time, to the year 1302, when Pope Boniface VIII wrote up the Unum Sanctum papal bull, which declared that the whole world would belong to the Vatican, and that was their claim of right to all the chattel and property and souls on the planet. And then the Jesuits in the 1500s with the Counter-Reformation, and now all the so-called Christian Bible societies that are very, very evangelistic, they have all contributed to this big, big, massive fiction of the Jesus historical story. But in order to understand the roots and the seeds of it, you've got to go back to Julius Caesar, the original JC. He is the original JC, and the calendar we have, which is now dated the year 2012, is not based on Jesus. Anno Domini, or AD, does not refer to Dominus Jesus Christus. It refers to Caesar Augustus, the son of Julius Caesar, because he was the one that implemented the Roman calendar. We are under a Roman calendar. It's not a Jewish calendar, therefore it is Roman. Therefore it's based on a Roman personage and not a Jewish. That would be ridiculous. Rome would never do that. Rome has never done anything like it, never will. Rome glorifies itself, and it's a Roman calendar, and it's Anno Domini is really Augustus Dominus, because he was the one that was worshipped as a god like no other in history. That's the God. That's the Son of God, Augustus. He even gave himself that name, Augustus, and named a month after him, August, as his father, adoptive father, Julius, named July, and they both gave those months 31 days to give them their full glory.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, so you've got to go back. So the Jesus Christ calendar goes back to Rome. The Jesus Christ literal history story goes back to Rome, Constantine the Great. The fact that Christianity tries to own the whole planet goes back to Rome and Pope Boniface. The whole corporate structure and fiction began with the Julian Empire and the Flavian dynasty after that. And there's no more to say. I mean, anyone who doesn't know that, I pity them. I pity them, because they will go to their graves in abundant ignorance, and they will suffer for the lack of that true knowledge that they really deserve to know, the true history of Christianity and its very, very deceitful nature. It's mendacious. From its very, very roots, it has been mendacious. Even, oh, look, I've got, well, let's have a look. I've got, in the Age of Reason, Thomas Taylor mocks them as buffoons that they really are. I've got Celsus in the 2nd century calling them idiots, the literalist Christians. Porphyry in the 3rd century calling them buffoons. Julian, the Emperor of Rome, the nephew of Constantine the Great, calling them liars against the Galileans. And he says, when he opens his book, he says, what does he say against the Galileans? The first words in the opening passage of the book says, "The time has come for me to say, for the benefit of all, how I discovered beyond any doubt that the stories of the Galileans are the inventions of deceivers and tricksters. For these men seduce people into thinking that their gruesome story is the truth by appealing to the part of the soul that loves what is simple and childish. The literal historical Jesus story is about as childish and stupefyingly stupid as the story that Santa Claus is a real human being and his address is the North Pole.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, and not much has really changed because this whole system, as it's merged into this control mechanism that operates globally now, that you were referring to, it operates in the same way, and the whole thing is about, you know, divide and conquer, keep people in fear, keep people in ignorance, you know, constantly keep them confused. So you have a million different theories out there about how we came to be here and who we are, so that because there's so much, you know, fighting about those basic primordial questions that we all have, most people just sort of in the modern age today, they don't even get into it. I mean, at least back in the day of Rome, there were people that would, you know, there were philosophers, and they would try to at least, you know, contemplate these things, but they've successfully herded us into this space where we're not contemplating much more than, you know, Meet the Kardashians or whatever other television shows. Like, we're not even having this conversation, you know. So how can we possibly find fulfillment and peace and answers to these questions when you even bring this up at a dinner conversation, you know, and you just try to talk about some of these basic concepts in a peaceful way? Man, you just get lambasted even just for bringing it up, you know. Don't talk about religion and politics, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And because they've thrown away the key, religion has become this shambolic, divisive force in the community. And as for people who say, oh, it's nice to have churches in the community, they unite the community and bring an atmosphere of love, I don't think so. When you've got the Uniting Church over here, the Methodists over there, Presbyterians, Jehovah's Witnesses, Baptists, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, that is division.
Yeah.
Because they've divided up, they've divided and apportioned the Christ according to their whims and fancies, and they teach patented, franchised truths according to their doctrine. And that's why they don't deal in truth. They deal in the truth. Because the definite article causes it to have now a certain qualification. You see, they've qualified the word truth. It's like when you say anything like air, for instance, air is air in general. But if you say the air, you're talking about, well, the air in this room, for instance. It's quite stuffy. So the air and air is very, very different. You know, it's a world of difference. One is objective, one is subjective, you see. And this is what they've done. That's why Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't say we are living in truth. They say we're living in the truth. Always. They never omit the definite article.
Because they're referring to their version of truth, basically.
Their version of truth. Of course. Yeah. They would never, the governing body, they're very, very clever, sinister little lawyers. They would never allow them to indulge in truth. Mm-hmm. They would never have a business. It's like if doctors cured if doctors gave you cures, they would be out of business. That's why they give you treatments instead.
Mm. And that's everywhere. I mean, everything is replacing the natural organic process of life. And, you know, you've got all these, there's sort of been, I wanted to ask you about this, because when you study the, you know, the history of groups like the Illuminati and some of these secret societies and what some of these people have written down about their vision of the future, where they've got this united world and this one world government and one bank and one ring to rule them all, right? They were talking about the creation of a new religion. And I find it interesting that here we are with this whole materialist mentality where it's all based on money. And it's always been based on money. I mean, even religion, they're all tax-exempt foundations. They're always trying to get you to plug money into the donation box, and it's always about money. What do you think they were speaking about, and what do you think their new religion is? Is it really anything new, or is it just a revamped mind control piece, you know?
Oh, it'll be one of their concoctions. You see, what they don't realize is there is only one religion in the whole universe, and it's respect of nature and how mind, because universe is mind, over matter, performs its motions through the universe. Everything is motion. Everything, every element, every atom, everything is motion. It's a river of motion. And the religion of the universe is the religion that respects this process. It respects electricity. It respects light. God is light. It acknowledges the true Christian religion, because Christ means light, crystal, and oil. It means all of those things that have to do with this science. Now, what they've done, because they know that there's only one religion, there's only one way.
They are aware of this knowledge, right?
Yeah. So what they do is they come along and they say, "All right, we're going to bring this unified one world religion," but it's their concoction, so that it's the Antichrist. It's the opposite of the true one religion, but it's for their purposes of mind control. This is what they do, and this is how they get people to go into their way of thinking, which is very lower mind thinking, where they can be manipulated and image trained and they can follow orders. Oh, I was only following orders. That's my job. My job says I can beat you up because I've got this badge, and I've got some legislation here that says you're not supposed to be in a car without a license. You can't do that. So I can taser you and beat you. These are the buffoons that Rome is controlling all the time. So they're coming out and they're saying, oh, we're gonna have a one world religion where we can all be unified. Yeah, unified under their mind control.
Not true unity consciousness. Because
No.
when you talk about this, we're saying on one hand we would like to see the world unite under that natural law, unite together in peace and harmony and all of that. And then they're talking about that on the same line. They're like, oh yeah, that's what we want. We want to have one world. And the Olympics,
Yeah.
if you've been watching any of the Olympics and all the propaganda with that, where they're trying to also put out this whole one world mentality, making it appear as though it's a very good thing. But when you see what's happened to the system on all levels in all areas, you see that it's corrupted. You see that it's there's liars on all levels of politics and media and every form, everything we get from the establishment figures has been pre-filtered, pre-packaged, prepared, and then we digest it and think it's true. And is it any different than the religions of the ancient times? It's the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is, because the religions of ancient times are a mere shadow of the holy science, the true doctrine, the Prisca Theologia, the original Arcanum, which they corrupted. And these guys are just copying them. They want to bring a world religion because it does look good to have a world unified religion, but it's good for who? It's good for the controllers.
Yeah.
So we want the same thing, only the controllers want it for them.
Yeah.
And so they're always mimicking nature. They're always counterfeiting some natural system. And so because they know, a lot of them know, that the one universal true religion is coming whether they like it or not. Because as we embrace the higher consciousness of the age of Aquarius, we remember that religion and all the other falsities get shed in the process. So they know it's coming. It's an avalanche they can't stop. But in the meantime, they're going to try and usurp that process somehow and give us a temporary one religion where they can control us for that little bit longer until such time as the dam wall bursts and the flood waters just pour out for the masses. And it's coming.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting because this is what this is what the Mayans were actually referring to. And the Egyptians and all these cultures talking about this time that we're in, they weren't referring to the end of the world. And I find it funny how that got twisted as well. You got Hollywood making these big blockbuster films, and it's all chaotic and everybody's losing, the world is getting destroyed, it's the end of the world. And I mean, I'm sure, we've been experiencing geological changes and whatnot, but what they were really referring to was the end of an age and the beginning of a newer existence or a new phase. So this isn't about fear. This isn't about having people worried about the end of the world in 2012. People should be more we want to try to enlighten people to see that this is actually an opportunity for us to evolve and ascend, right?
Yeah. Look, we are at the stage where you could say a caterpillar is still in the cocoon and it has no fear of having to exit that cocoon. It must exit that cocoon if it wants its wings. Now, metamorphosis, in our language, metamorphosis would be apotheosis. And apotheosis in Greek means the becoming of gods. We will be fully godlike when we experience our metamorphosis, our apotheosis. And that happens by remembering who we are and by ascending the oils in the cerebrospinal system. See, the ascension happens within. Here is the heavens. Aries is the heavens. And the bottom part of the spine, which corresponds to the sacral plexus and the coccygeal plexus down below, which are called Sodom and Gomorrah, that's hell. Anything below the heart chakra is hell. And everything above is heaven. And in particular, Aries. Now, that's the cerebrum. The cerebrum comes from two words, wax and neutral. This neutral wax is produced in the high heaven and it descends. You see, Mercury's holding a caduceus. Caduceus means to descend. Just like Jordan River means to descend. And so the wax from the cerebrum descends and it produces all the corpuscles in the body and all the blood cells and everything. It all comes from Aries, from the high heaven. And that is the heaven, that's where God is. This is the tribe of Gad in the Jewish system. Gad is God, the ram, Aries. In the Hindu system, it's Rama. Rama is the most high, and we also have Abrahma, Rama is always, even the Muslims have Ramadan. You see, Ramadan is the holy festival. Everything Rama is in the ram, you see. And so this is the Lamb of God. And the spinal system is the bride. You see, in the scriptures it talks about the Lamb and his bride. The Lamb, Christ Jesus, and he is wed with his bride, the Christian congregation. Well, that's the Lamb. And the bride is the cerebrospinal system, the endocrine system. And as we balance the chemicals in our body, and we keep alkalinity and acid balanced on the pH scale, and we keep it in the 7 in the middle, that's why God loves the number 7.
Okay.
You see, alkaline over here, that comes from the word halikali in Arabic. Al in Arabic means God, Allah. Ali Kali. Kali means fire. And that's where we get the word alkaline, alikali, which means father fire. So father fire, the sun, is on this side, and the acidic is controlled by, guess who? Saturn. Saturn is always, there are 7 tastes and there are 7 planets. For instance, Jupiter rules the sweet tastes. Mars rules the bitter tastes. Saturn rules the acid tastes. So there's always this war between the sun and Saturn. Jesus and Satan. Horus and Set. Alkalinity, acidity. Warmth, coldness. Electricity, magnetism. Positive, negative. Yin, yang, and it's eternal. And if we can keep that balance, if we can keep that alkalinity balanced in the body, once the body is perfect, the spirituality takes care of itself. See, people are putting the cart before the horse. They go out to these retreats where they can do all these meditations and all these scary ascension process, and they do these circles and they jump and they do these hoops and they take these potions. Nothing wrong with that. That's good. But if they've just had, you know, triple cheeseburgers from McDonald's all their lives, and they've got all this, basically they've got all this poo in their intestines, because the intestines, you know, overweight people are just collecting poo. That's all they've got, tons of it. It's all in their body. Now, and they go to these ascension things and they do these meditations and they've got all these triple burger physiques. They're never going to ascend. And the same goes with people who abuse alcohol or sex, or people who get angry, vicious people, nasty people, jealous people, envious people, climbing up the corporate ladder people. All of these people, forget about it. It's not like they're going to all of a sudden, oh shit, oh 2012's upon us. Okay, rightio, well I'll forget about all that stuff and I'll just do some ascension exercises and let's get ourselves ascended.
Quick fixes, eh? Like, yeah.
All your life must be devoted to moderation, abstinence, continence, because they're incontinent. You know, people who walk down the street and all of a sudden, you know, a sexual urge comes upon them because they saw a nice babe with curves walking past, and then they're looking for a place to discharge that sexual energy. All they're doing is living for pleasure, for gain rather than for good. And there's consequences for that. There's no one condemning you if you know you want to go and have a lot of sex, you want to drink and everything. No one's going to condemn you. It's you doing it to yourself. And all you're doing is creating a body that is full of acid, that Satan rules, because Saturn rules acid, and you will never ascend, no matter what exercises you do. You can pay $1,000 to this guru, and that guru, and the other guru, and they're never going to help you ascend.
Well, it's like what Krishnamurti was talking about when he was talking about how we need to realize that and bring about a revolution of the mind where we start becoming the gurus and the saviors, and we start empowering ourselves. And like you were making that reference earlier about, the heart chakra moving up and to the lower chakras. If you don't have a balance, if you are living only in one realm, in the lower realm, it's like those people that are physically damaging their bodies due to eating too many cheeseburgers or whatever. And yet when you have anybody that is, like you and me talking here, trying to speak deeply and contemplate life and try to find the truth, and seek knowledge. I mean, even in the Bible it says, seek and ye shall find, right? Seek the truth and it will set you free. All of these different things we've had. It's all about that, achieving that higher consciousness, if that's how I'm reading it, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely it is. And the most important thing is to get the stone, the philosopher's stone, balanced. And that's what the 12 salts do. The 12 mineral salts give balance, give equilibrium to your biochemistry. And once that's in place, once this beautiful temple is clean and cleaned of all its defilements, then we can proceed with the science of salvation, because it is a science. There's no vicarious saviour. It's not about waiting for Jesus patiently and then, okay, I belong to this particular denomination, and I said, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this and didn't I do that in your name? Therefore, you should be saving my ass. It's not about that. It's about science. It's the science of salvation. Sal comes from salt, and salt has to do with all those beautiful salvation words. Salute, health, halo. Halo comes from the Greek word salt, halos. Salutations. In Spanish, the word for health is salud. In Italian, it's salute. Saliva, celery, you get a celery in salt, etc., because it's the great preserver. Now, check out this scripture in the Bible. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1, it says, "Therefore, since we have these promises, beloved ones, let us cleanse ourselves of every defilement of flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in godly fear." That's not what we've been led to believe in churches, that we're supposed to be, perfecting our bodies in godly fear by going to this or that particular church and appearing to be a good Christian. That's hypocrisy. What it's talking about is to really, really apply the science of moderation. How many Christians claim to be good people? Oh, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we expel demons in your name? And I will confess to them in that day, get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. I never knew you. That's in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. So, how many Christians look pretty good? On the surface, you see them, doing their charity thing, and they look pretty respectable in public. Yep, no worries about that. But in their private lives, you can rest assured there is no moderation there. There's no abstinence, and there's no continence. They are completely incontinent imbeciles. They are the chief goyim, Gentile dumb masses, that what the Bible calls an adulterous generation, because they're fornicators. They think that if they stick to their married partners and have sex only with their married partners, that they are not committing fornication. No. Sex is a science. If you just have sex just for the purpose of pleasure and expending your sexual energy in an orgasm, you know nothing about sex, and you are classed a fornicator. That's a fornicator. You must have knowledge of sex. It's very, very powerful and very important that we understand what sex really is.
So it's referring to the state of ignorance, basically.
Yeah, it is. Fornicators are ignorant.
Sorry, Santos, if you mind 1 sec, I just have to get my cat. Hold on 1 sec here.
Yep, you do that.
Okay, otherwise she'll drive me nuts. Okay, so basically, so talk about that a little more if you don't mind, Santos. Talking about moderation, talking about, the way I've always viewed sex and anything really is just about understanding that there is a much deeper a much deeper meaning behind it, a much deeper exchange of energy. And I think in all of these different areas, that's really what we're talking about, is that people are living on the surface in the 3D reality. They're tapped into the matrix, so to speak, right? And they believe that it's the truth. But as you said before, they're living under that realm of Saturn, which is the illusion. And so we're living in the illusion as opposed to living in the truth, really is what we're talking about. And this happens in all areas, and it covers everything that we're suffering today because of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is because we are at war with God. In other words, we're living in the cerebellum. Bellum means war. in Latin. The cerebellum is against the cerebrum. The cerebellum is the Taurus mind. It's very, that's why Taurians are always associated with materialism and wealth, and whereas Arians are always associated with I am, and they're more focused on it's a fire, intuition, spiritual plane that it's associated with. It doesn't mean that Taurians are not spiritual, it doesn't mean that at all. But what it's pointing to, what it's teaching is it's teaching physiology. Aries is the cerebrum, Taurus is the cerebellum. The cerebellum is at war with the cerebrum. That's why when you go to the Sistine Chapel in Rome and you see God is reaching out and he's reaching out to touch Adam's finger. Because this is the man brain, the animal brain, and 99.9% of mankind are living in this brain, and they do not recognize this one at all. The higher consciousness they absolutely deny. It's the devil.
Wow. And so, kind of bringing it back to the situation we're in terms of being in a state of not being free. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that point fingers, and they always, we do identify those criminals that have brought these different systems into place to put chains on us. But very few people are out there that are willing to take responsibility for playing a part in perpetuating this system, which at the end of the day is really just designed to actually hold you in those lower energies and in that lower consciousness, right?
Yeah. One thing that the system accommodates more than anything is half-truths and falsehoods which keep us in this lower mind which is at war with God. And that is anything and everything that keeps the vibration low so that the oil in the spinal cord does not ascend. Because that's what ascension is. That's all it is. All you've got to do is ascend the oil. How simple is that?
Yeah.
It's the elixir of life. And when the oil reaches the optic thalamus, you've got, that's the eye, the simple eye. Remember I was talking about the one bearing witness? That's the one. You see, without that one activated, in fact that's Christ, and it corresponds to Orion in Taurus in the skies. Without that one, we wouldn't be able to watch ourselves. We wouldn't be able to bear witness to ourselves. We'd only have 5 senses. We'd have to touch everything to know it. We'd have to see it and smell it. We couldn't sort of do this analytical, intellectual thing and use the intuition because we don't have this activated, you see. So to the extent that you ascend the oil is the extent that you can use this properly. Because once the oil reaches the optic thalamus, then all the dormant brain cells in the cerebrum are reactivated. And you've got halos coming out everywhere. Your divinity and your pure heart will be manifest to all people. It will be just obvious. It will just glow. You will glow. You will have energy coming out of your light body. And that's because you've really got good things in here. Overeating, let's just pick on one thing. Let's not even concentrate on the more powerful things like sex, alcohol, drugs, and all sorts of anger and things like that that destroy the oil. Overeating is one means of destroying the oil that has been used very well by the elites. You look at how many junk food advertisements there are on free-to-air TV.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah.
Every 10 minutes when you have an ad break, which lasts for a couple of minutes, there will be a junk food ad in there. Get the next chicken burger from Kentucky Fried. They've got 14 secret ingredients to this secret recipe, and you can guarantee whatever the secret is, it's poisonous. It's shit. You can guarantee it. And it will be discovered one day that Kentucky Fried Chicken and Mr. Colonel have done a lot of harm to humanity by means of their poisoned chickens.
It's funny you bring that up. Sorry to interrupt, but I actually grew up when I was a teenager. It was one of my first jobs. I worked at a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I got to see firsthand what goes on with that. And it's interesting how I think it was a couple of years ago, my wife brought this to my attention. She found this article where I think it was the Susan G. Komen Foundation or something like that. It was a cancer charity, and they were actually doing a advertising campaign with Kentucky Fried Chicken, where if you went in and bought a pink bucket of deep fried Kentucky Fried Chicken, what was it, like 10 cents or something goes to cancer research or whatever. And so she's like, what's the irony? So she actually wrote a letter to the foundation and basically just calling them out and saying, you know, you claim to be a cancer survivor and you really care about all this, but you're actually allying with one of the biggest causes of this disease known to our modern world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And who is the Cancer Research Foundation anyway, if not Rockefeller, Rothschild? They're all Rockefeller, Rothschild, all of them. Every charity known to man that professes to do good and save children and save chickens and animals and all sorts of shit, they are all foundations for money making. If you want to help people, you just help them.
Yeah.
And what are they researching about? Dr. Sebi down in Honduras is saying, what the freaking hell are they researching? Yeah. I've got cures for cancer. I can tell you in 5 minutes. I can tell you a cure for cancer, and you can get rid of it in 24 hours. What are they researching? They're always collecting money for research. Research. Oh, we've got to research because they are just concocting more poisons so they can have a big pharma,
yeah,
and so that they can keep people poisoned, and so none of the oil ascends.
It really works like a virus, right? Like the system itself. Yeah. Like I've done a little bit of research into the whole idea of, I'm trying to remember his name. I think he works out of the UK, but he was talking about the Candida yeast in the body, which is something that, sugar just completely, it feeds off sugar and it moves around your body like a plague. And it is one of the major carriers of this, what causes cancer and everything else. And the Candida is obviously, like you were saying, based on the diet and everything else. And people are just saturated in this and they have no idea. And they don't understand how the cancer travels, but it's apparently through this fungus or whatever. And he was talking about the whole idea of alkalinity in the body and even using basic ingredients like sodium bicarbonate and other things like that, to try to get rid of it. But here we are funding these charities and looking for all these cures. Yet how many variations of the cancer cure have tried to come out and have been suppressed again and again because the system is the Candida yeast itself. It's feeding off of the money, off of the hopes and dreams of people. And these poor people, and I have, my family has suffered from cancer. I've had, I've had that, we've been afflicted in that way, and it's a brutal thing, but here we are. The solution is right in front of our face. The whole time,
Yeah. The natural remedies, the natural way is always the true way. Nature never lies. Never lies. Anything that man does to alter nature is detrimental and has consequences. Anything they do to alter nature, you can't improve it. It's perfect, and it speaks, and it's forever moving and evolving and developing and growing, and it's always going in a certain direction, and man is always at war with nature because he's still in the cerebellum. So nature has the cures. We have deviated from the path of nature. We are the ones that attack nature and go and change the food supply, and we change the remedies that nature has. That's all Big Pharma can do. All they can do is just grab the molecules that they get from nature, reorganize them, shuffle them around a bit, mix them up a bit, and then give them to you as something that contains iron and contains potassium or contains some kind of benefit, but the molecular structure is altered. therefore it's toxic. Anything that has been altered molecularly in nature, you should never ingest. Never.
Wow. It's really that simple. And it's just it's incredible. And I talk to people. I've got some friends who are, I got a couple friends in med school, and they're all studying these things. And you try to bring up the whole natural path concept, and they just right away, they run from it. They're like, it's almost like they put up a crucifix. Please don't bring up, natural homeopathic medicine and remedies. It must be big pharma. It must be invasive surgery. They've got all these big financial institutions funding research, and there's all these, technological gizmos that they have, and this is what's curing people. Yet when you look around, you see nothing but disease just rampant everywhere. It's growing. Cancer, all diseases we never even heard of. I can't even keep track of all the names of all these diseases.
Yep.
It's incredible.
And all they can think of is researching ways to treat it, not to cure.
Not to cure it, yeah.
And this is what the religions have done. They've got a literary true document, character, and they've turned it into a historically true character, which is impossible to do, but they've done a number on all the dumbasses that believe in it, and guess what? They're gonna get their butts whipped because it's simply just a treatment. What they give in churches is the same as what Big Pharma does. They just treat the stupidity of the people that go to them for those services. We should be wise enough, and we should have the insight and the wisdom and the responsibility to be priests unto ourselves.
But people don't want that responsibility. They want. I bet you get emails yourself, Santos, because you've been teaching people this knowledge. And I'm sure there's a lot of well-meaning people out there, but do you ever find yourself in that situation where you're teaching this stuff, and then people, they constantly want you to tell them the truth, and they start leaning on you, and they put you into that position of being their guru and their person to go to, instead of understanding what you've really been trying to say, which is to have yourself empowered with knowledge so that you can change your situation. Do you run into that quite a lot, or?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens, and I feel sorry for people who still need that. I mean, I'm teaching people how to fish. I'm not giving them fish so they don't have to come back to me for more fish. I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. I'm just a person who's taken notice and paid attention, and the knowledge that I have, the picture, if I'm able to see the whole astronomical, astrological, biblical, theological, syncretic picture, if I'm able to do that, well then that means that my knowledge embraces all of those subjects. So, if I can, for instance, if I can speak Italian, well then I can teach it, because I can speak Italian. I know the language. I can teach English because I know English. So I know the Bible, I know astronomy, I know all these subjects, I've put them together, I've paid attention, I've joined all the dots. So what I'm doing is I'm just sharing that knowledge, so then people then can see the same panoramic view. They may not have noticed that view before because they're busy, I don't know, maybe they've got a family to raise, maybe they've got 3 jobs that they have to do and they haven't been able to study as much as me. So it's my pleasure to be able to share that view, that understanding. And so what they should be doing there with that now is that they're being taught how to fish. So they can go out and get their own fish now. You see, if you've got a question, you know where to go. Yeah. Otherwise, see, but what happens with a lot of people is they watch 20 minutes of one of my videos, and all of a sudden they remembered those 6,000 questions that they've always had since they were born, and so they think, oh, well, Santos must know the answer, and I'll just email him. Here's my 6,000 questions that I've never been able to answer. Can you answer them, please, Santos? And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you had have watched maybe 40 minutes of that video, you would have had 30,000 of those answered.
Yeah.
They're in the videos. They're in there.
Yeah.
How to fish is in there. It's all done. It's all over.
Yeah.
And the information in there, for me, it's just basically evidence. All it is evidence. I've just brought forth evidence to show and expose all the lies that have been perpetrated on the planet. So, for churches to continue in their fictions, doing business, that day has to be over, because my videos, apart from, let alone all the videos of all the great scholars that have gone before me that have been exposing this for thousands of years, my videos are doing their part to bust the fictions so that we can get rid of the fictions. So they've got nowhere to go. The churches have got their backs up against the wall. It's all over. My videos alone, if we set up a court case, I would go in with my videos alone, and there's enough information, evidence, and proof in there for them to cease doing business for the rest of eternity.
Wow. And again, you're just referencing many different sources. I mean, this is what it is. We are the ones pointing to the truth and pointing to at least find the desire to want truth again and want to seek it. This is what I find when I'm speaking with people, and I was bringing up the concept of or the concept to you yesterday about, the true freedom, the true state of being free versus the illusion of freedom that we live in. And we've been talking about all these different illusions and how they manifest. But, being free seems to be something, at least especially here in my country, in Canada, where we feel that we have it. We believe that we have it. We believe that we've been given it. But again, it's about going to a higher authority. It's about always looking outside of ourselves in order to have order and peace and security. And those big brothers are there to offer it to you. Go, yes, we'll protect you. We'll do everything for you. Don't mind the corruption. Don't mind the pedophilia. Don't mind all the twisted evil crap that we're involved in. But we'll take care of you, And what is it inside of us that refuses to want to even look to find out what true freedom is, and we want to stay in the illusion? What do you think it is inside of us?
Well, it's still not knowing who we are. We don't realize that we are the one bearing witness. It's not God out there. It's us. We are connected to that undivided, undifferentiated consciousness. They're denying them very selves. They are sinning against their own bodies by rejecting God. And so they are still at war in the cerebellum. They are bellicose, and they are belligerent inhabitants. This is why judges can whip your ass in court and they can throw you into prison, because you're at war with the system. We are not at peace. Yeah. And until you know who you are, when a judge sees that you know who you are and you're not that name, then they can't do anything with you. And that's the day that the kingdom of heaven will arrive, when we arrive. When we arrive...
Sorry, yeah, they've taken the... talking about all these different words and how religions have twisted and manipulated these scriptures. I mean, they've manipulated language itself. And then now they've got like your regular everyday language that you speak to your fellow citizens, and then you have the legal language that is meaning something completely different and referring to something different. And it's a way of entrapping people. And you definitely cover a lot about that. Where are you at now in terms of the best approach to getting away from those fictions of the fictional name and the fictional corporation and all of that?
Being a peaceful inhabitant, first of all, a friend of the court, amicus curiae, practicing usufruct, which means you can use the fruit of anything that you see, because that's how the world works. You can't own anything. Stop claiming ownership of the name, anything. Forget about ownership, because you can't own anything in the system. The moment you claim that you own this house and this property and this thing and this name, you are belligerent. and they've got you. And the best way to deal in court is to ask questions. By what authority do you use that name as personal identification, sir? By what authority do you use that name as personal identification? The judge has just mentioned your name, and he's got no authority to identify you with that name. And he knows he doesn't have any authority. That's why he never asks. Do you have any proof that you are Mr. Santos Bonacci? Can I see your license before you come to the bench, please? Can I see your birth certificate? They never ask for any ID because they know that you can't use any of it to identify a flesh-blood person. So what are they doing operating courts? Well, then you've got to expose that fraud.
Wow.
You need to go into court peacefully and say, hey, look, there's been a mistake. I believe there's been a mistake in the matter of the name. Under what authority do you use that name as personal identification? And they will turn white, and they will have to discharge the case, because that's checkmate right there. They've got no authority, and they know they haven't got any authority. It's just a name. It's floating around.
And so the origin of the court, I mean, I've always kind of, when I've listened to people like Jordan Maxwell, and he's always fond of referring to courts as hey, we play sports on the court, you play tennis on a court and all of this. It's a game of passing the ball back and forth. It's a game to entrap you. And, the court system, what do you know about the history about how that system, I mean, was it something that started in Rome? Does it go before that? Has it morphed throughout the ages, or is it the same? I mean, they wear the same silly costumes, the judges, and they wear the black robes and all that. What's the origin of that?
Well, civil law goes with empire. And you can be a civilian or a citizen or a member of society by having certain memberships, registrations and whatnot. So, but now there's nothing wrong with it. It's not evil. It's the way they run it that's evil. But if you were educated and enlightened to the fact that you're operating in a society which is doing commerce and which has these SSBKV trusts in place whereby you are the beneficiary and you are protected by being the beneficiary, and you can discharge all your costs, and you can use that person because you have a person, you are not a person. See, we've been led down the path of being the person and not having the person. So we've been taught, and Hollywood helps to dumb us down, because we watch cop shows like Starsky and Hutch and Chips and all of those cop films in the 60s and the 70s, which show policemen on the street grabbing people, just out of the blue, grabbing people and stopping people with their cars. So what was happening was the elite were just brainwashing us into thinking that policemen have that much power, because we are that person.
Yeah.
We have that person. It's our legal person that we have, that we can choose to represent, or we can choose not to represent, or we can go to court and say, hey, what are you doing? Coming to court representing that name. When the prosecutor says, I'm here on behalf of the Crown, well, what he's really saying is, I'm here in behalf of that fictional piece of identifying utility, and he's just hoping that you're dumb enough not to know that he's committing fraud too.
Wow.
So you know that you have a person. You are not the person. and know how to ask questions. And they can never, ever, ever charge you for anything, ever, unless you've hurt someone. If it's a civil matter, they can never, ever charge you for anything because you haven't hurt anybody. So you've got nothing to fear. You just ask the right questions and don't make a claim against that name.
Wow.
Because you also will be committing fraud. When the cop pulls you up and asks you for your license, he wants to see if you are going to commit the same fraud as he is. Laying a claim on that name. You're both fighting for that name. Hang on a minute, that's ours. That's our government property. No, it's my name. I own that name. That's me. That's my ID. Lose it.
Wow. So basically, I've heard you say before, lose the name, win the game. So basically, do we even have to go into court? If you've set, obviously you have to go down that path of, getting out of that name, right? And then from there you can maybe even approach it from a distance. Like I've heard Max Egan talk a lot about that, where he was like, he doesn't even bother going into the court at all, tries to do it all just via sending a letter and, just dealing with it that way because they really don't have any authority. I guess because it's an invitation to go to court, and a lot of people feel that it's because they make you believe that it's mandatory.
Yep. This is why you might want to write to the court and ask them by what authority are they using that name as personal identification. I don't think you'll get any correspondence from them ever at all again. Wow. I don't go to court anymore. I used to, but I would never go to court ever again. No way. No way. And if they come and grab me, well, they can commit that violence. That's up to their conscience, but they're not going to get me because I am not the name. I have that name, and I'm not going to lay a claim to it. I don't even own anything. On the record, I own nothing. There's nothing that I own that is registered with their fictional institutions. Nothing. Not even my car.
So if you get pulled over for not having a registration, you're dealing with the police officer on the side of the road. How does that interaction work? Because you said he's trying to get you involved in a verbal contract, right?
Well, my car's registered because my wife uses it, and she doesn't do the sovereignty thing at all. So I have to register my car, but I don't have a driver's license. I travel without a driver's license.
And if they ask for it, you're basically just saying that's not me. That's.
Well, last time I got pulled up, there were 3 cops and they roughed me up, and I just said, "That's your property. It's not mine. That's your property." Is there any law that suggests that I'm obliged to say that I am that name? There is none.
That's what they have to do. They have to get you to admit it. I mean, I think back to when we had in 2010, we had the G20 come to Toronto. And I remember thinking, oh, well, because I've watched the G20 events before and how horrific the police brutality always gets. And I guess when we thought, oh, it's coming to Canada, you always think, oh, well, it's Canada. They're not going to be as abusive. Well, it turned out to be the worst G20 in terms of police brutality. They set up this prison system. They put over 1,000 people away in these little cages for 72 hours, and they were grabbing people that were even just on their way home from dinner. They weren't even part of any protests. There was all kinds of horrors that took place. And before the G20, leading up to it, they had police walking around and just randomly grabbing people and saying, "Can I see your ID? Can I see your ID?" And it just reminded everybody of like Nazi Germany, show me your papers, right? And there was people that were smart enough to say, "Look, I don't have to show you my identification. I'm a free, sovereign person living in a free country. Why am I having to show you? I haven't committed any crime. You want to just randomly search me?" But there was a lot of people that acquiesced to it, and they just give away their power by doing that. And then you see this incredible abuse that took place as a result of that. So the system will abuse you if they can. This is what people think, and they think they want to trust the system because all of those police officers are there to protect you. And all of those judges are there to protect the law and justice and all that. And they put the symbol of justice there, and they have all these emblems and all these things. But when you really understand symbolism, which for me is a very fascinating subject, you'll start to notice that those symbols don't mean what they profess to mean in the beginning. Like, I mean, you look at the flag with the golden fringe around it. That's talking about a military flag, a military court, a military tribunal, and you can go on and on, the fasci and all these different symbols that they use in these courts and political houses and whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
But Santos, at this point, I wanted to maybe get into a little bit of what's going on today and where you see us, if we can think about the fact that we're already more than halfway through 2012. We've got the Mayan calendar date of December 21st coming up, and we've had quite the busy first half of a year, and it looks like things might be heating up the rest of this year as well. I don't know. I guess we're going to see. But where do you feel that we are when you're looking at things astrologically and you're looking at the evolution of consciousness? You know, more and more people are starting to wake up and really start asking these questions. You know, where do you really think that we're at right now?
We're on the threshold of a big shift. We're in the cocoon still, the majority of us at least. There's a small slither at the top that have embraced the higher consciousness. These, in the Greek system, they are called heroes. In the Jewish system, they are called Jews. You see, the Jews are the chosen ones. In fact, there's a saying that we come from the mineral to the plant, to the animal, to the human, to the Jew, to angel, or to God. So, what that means is, a hero is a caste separate from the rest of humanity, and they live virtually between heaven and earth, really, because they kind of live separate from the world. They are truly separate from this world and the herd and the masses. They've separated themselves by being heroic and saving themselves and others. Now, there's three types of heroes. There's the Plutonian, Neptunian, and Jupiterian. So Jupiter is always at the top. That's why Jupiter is always the good guy. Neptune is in the middle, and then Pluto is down the bottom. Pluto has to do with the earthy type of hero who's still a hero in his own mind, in his own opinions, but nonetheless he's still a hero. You know, these are your sort of, I don't know, people who do heroic things like military things and things to do with justice and stuff like that. And that's the Plutonian hero. Then you have the Neptunian hero, which was the Odysseus belonged to that class. It has to do with water and the psyche. So the earth is Pluto and the opinions and sensation. And then you've got the water and the psychic, and then you've got the Jupiterian hero who saves not only himself but others. Whereas Ulysses could only save himself. He couldn't save his friends, you see. He wandered around for 10 years and he went through all those trials and everything like that. But he failed to save his friends. So there's also three classes of heroes. Nonetheless, we should be in that class. We should not be of the class of the herd who are just interested in things to do with gain and not good. They're living and sacrificing and they're devoting their lives to gain because they haven't discovered the good, and the good is God.
So when you're saying when you're talking about the level, like, and you're referring to the Jews and how, or the concept of the Jew, you're not referring to a race of people that are the Jews that are claiming that they are the only exclusive group that are the chosen ones of God. We're talking about how anybody, once again, can be moving into that level where they become that third stage of the hero, right?
Yeah, it's just another word for hero. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's purely to do with caste. It's the spiritual caste that you must inherit before you ascend to the next dimension. We must be heroes. We've simply got no choice.
So do you feel that we're getting there, or that we're going to, move through a certain, people talk about going through the photon belt and how we're, aligning more with galactic center and all of this. Do you think that will, give us a bit of a boost? Are we moving in the right direction? Where do you think we're sitting right now in terms of getting to that third hero stage?
I think we're sitting okay. I think the most important component and portion of humanity that needs to wake up has already done that. And once it reaches critical mass, it will spill on over to the masses, and it will help them. Potentially everyone can be saved, if you like. It's highly unlikely that it's going to happen, but we're going to have a good little nudge along the way, and some of those will be really brutal and catastrophic, and others will be more smooth and more subtle. But certainly we are going up in consciousness and shifting in consciousness.
So, and then I guess in terms of, what's your reading on the whole 2012 date of, December 21st, and how that kind of plays into all this? Because it appears to be that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, when the 21st of December 2012 comes, we will all know when it does, because we will be eased into the higher consciousness. And whatever changes come about as a consequence of that, we will feel them. Whether there's going to be catastrophes, whether there's not going to be catastrophes, or whether there's going to be, I don't know, some sort of comets and things from heaven, or time is going to just, the concept and the whole way we view time is going to change. There will be major changes. How it happens, I don't know. Nobody knows. Not even those guys out there, the extraterrestrials that are looking on. No one knows. That's why they're all gathered around, to behold and see and wait and watch, because they know that our cycle is up. Our 0 point is coming, and they know it. And so everybody's watching. Everybody's waiting to see what will happen. But it may be more subtle than we expect. It may be more severe than we expect. But certainly you can sense that it's going to be something quite unique, because already the shifting is occurring. Already a lot.
Yeah, it's like, you have, and it's interesting you bring up the concept of extraterrestrials. I mean, it's been a subject I've been interested for a long time, and I go back to, some of these philosophers. I'm trying to remember his name, I can't think of it now. He was talking about how, there are, he got killed by the Vatican for basically saying that there are many suns and many planets, and there are
Giordano Bruno,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought that really, when I was listening to that, and when you see what happened to him for talking about it, and you see now where we've got this whole field in this day of ufology and people studying this, and people are very hopeful that those extraterrestrial brothers and sisters that we have are just going to come in and save us. So they're maybe they don't believe Jesus is going to come back, but they're switching for another savior to come. And I do believe those beings are there and they're watching, but it's interesting that they haven't intervened, because what would be the point of our movement and our growth? I mean, if like in my trade, I teach martial arts for a living. That's what I do. And if I were to go out and do all of those drills and moves for my students, what benefit would they ever gain? The whole point is to go through that learning process. And I look at it like that. Everybody that's waiting for these ETs to come in the sky, just like they're waiting for Jesus to come in the sky, I mean, they're in that same mindset of, once again, not giving credit to the process of nature, or giving credit to their own salvation, like you were talking about, which is really, we came here for a challenge. We didn't come here to be coddled the whole time. This is how I feel anyways. We came here to go through this process of maturity. And when you're a teenager, you go through a hellish process, and your body changes, and your voice changes, and everything changes, and it's quite hellish in a way, but it's obviously necessary for you to mature into that next stage. I have a feeling a lot of people don't really mature to the next stage. They kind of stay in that teenager mentality, unfortunately, but it's just kind of the way we see it. What do you think? I wanted to get your take, because I know you're very you look at things from the astrological point of view. Have you looked at all into the 2012 Olympics and the London Games and a lot of the symbols that are there? Have you checked that out at all, and did you have any take on that?
Yeah, I have. I've seen Rick Clay's work, and I've seen the new video called The Zion Olympics. Very, very well done.
Yeah, very
yeah, there's also a Spanish guy who prophesied 40 years ago about this Olympics. I don't think there'll be any sort of a major false flag incident, but there will be, guarantee you there will be, a massive satanic ritual of mind control, which will change the playing field for the elites. The elites are using this one. This is all about mind control. People are just being herded. The whole world their attention has been directed to these Olympics, and you can see clearly it's all Zion. You look at the logo 2012, and it spells Zion. It's blatantly saying Zion. 2012 actually says Zion. It's scary. So these guys now have taken this dark, inversive magic to another level. And they are more blatant now, they are more transparent, they are more brazen, and because the end is nigh. Let's face it, they've only got weeks, they've only got months. These losers and criminals, they are about to be all herded up.
Wow. And so do you think they're just trying to hype it up? I mean, because they've got the biggest military presence and weapons presence we've ever seen. Like, they've got, surface-to-air missiles, and they've got Navy standing by, and they've got, I don't know how many troops that are down there, and how many security firms and all of this. Are they just trying to hype up this fear and try to get everybody into that zone? Do you think they're expecting something, because things are getting rocky with China and Russia and all of that? Or do you think there still might be a possibility that they'll try to use this as an opportunity to have a 9/11 type event? Now, that doesn't mean it'll be an attack, but they need an event that will change our momentum, because I would say that the momentum is starting to swing in our favor, and like you said, they're running out of time. They don't have a lot of time left to try to maintain power. So that's why I think a lot of people might be really curious as to what they're going to try to do, whether it just be a ritual, energy-based, situation, or whether it be a physical, whatever. They might pull off some Project Bluebeam. They might pull off who knows what they could use. But so you don't think they're actually going to try to pull anything off physically?
No, I don't think so. They may have wanted to, but there's been a lot of exposure. A lot of people are just waiting to see, and they know that a lot of people are waiting to see. So a lot of people are just very, very skeptical, and they've put them on notice through the internet and through various means. So I think they would be pretty stupid to actually go ahead and do a false flag incident because many people can say now, like perhaps Bill Cooper and Alex Jones were able to say months before 9/11 occurred that they were predicting that it was going to happen. There's a lot of evidence predicting that something could potentially happen. This would just condemn them too much, you know.
Yeah.
I think they're going to. I think they're going to use something more subtle, some more subtle magic. But I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow I wake up and I hear that, you know, a bomb just killed 400 people and it came from some kind of extremist sovereignty group or something like that.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, well, it was kind of creepy that, you know, speaking of the Rockefeller Foundation earlier, they actually came out with a document that predicted 13,000 deaths at the London Olympics, and then a subsequent, 40,000 deaths because of some earthquake somewhere. It was the creepiest thing I've ever read. I'm not sure if you've seen that. But that was one of the things that was brought up recently, because they're thinking, what's someone like the Rockefeller Foundation just going out and just saying it? And I do find it interesting how blatant that they're being, even politically, you know, going after all of these, all the rights and all the, trying to go after the guns. I mean, we had these shootings that took place, and now they're talking, oh, we got to get rid of all the guns and everything else. And, they're just being, either they're getting sloppy or they just don't care or they want to brag about it. But, you know, I agree with you that it's because they're just awaiting the end. They're awaiting the end of their empire, you know.
Yeah, because they're not going to go away. They don't go away just because we're getting conscious.
Yeah.
They're not saying, oh, whoops, humanity's getting conscious. We better give up our corporations and we better give up our status and let them have it.
Yeah.
No. No, they fight to the end because they're insane. That's their game, and they will play it until the end because it's the only game they know.
Yeah.
Their God is the lower mind. It's greed. It's associated with the stomach and food and acid and all of the negative things. You see, so they will not change their skins, their colours, although many elites have. Many elites have changed sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard about that as well, and it makes sense because it's this energy that's affecting the planet and this consciousness shift is having an effect on the planet as a whole. And if you're on this planet, you're going through a shift. I mean, I feel it in my own personal life where I find just dramatic fluctuations between my energy. You know, one day I'm up, and I'm nothing. You know, you're untouchable. And the next day it's just you're down, and you really have to work. It's like you're swimming through molasses or something. And you know, I've talked to a lot of other people as well, and seeing the differences in how time is just already feeling. Some days are just lasting forever, and other days I feel like it's like 5 seconds. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah. It's everything's shifting. Everything, the whole, the way the world was to us 20 years ago. It's our perspective for time and space, and all of these things is changing. We're growing up. It's a good thing. We need to embrace it, and we need to be ready for it. All you've got to do is prepare the body. Get the body biochemistry perfect. That's all you have to do.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. Because the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's like you can't just wish, a beautiful cake to come out of your oven.
Yeah.
You know, if you just throw all this shit in the pan and just, you've got to have the body of it must be perfectly balanced. You know, you imagine a nice chocolate cake comes out of the oven. If you haven't got the right amount of this, right amount of that, forget about it, right?
Yeah.
So the body is the same. What comes out of the oven is what we've put in. Everything you put into the body is what comes out. And if you're putting triple cheeseburgers in, and bacon and eggs and fried in the morning with wheat bread and everything, all that shit, that's poison. If you're doing that, there's no way there's going to be any oil ascending.
Wow. Well, Santos, we've got a couple minutes left, and this has just been a great conversation. It's such a pleasure to talk to someone that, has that knowledge, and also that, that you have that passion for truth. And I really must commend you on your availability to people at this time, and how, as a teacher, and I'm a teacher by trade, I really respect at just how available you've made yourself, and how much you work tirelessly to put this information out, and for the purpose of trying to contribute. And I wish we had more people like that. I learned a lot from you, from watching your videos and listening to you, and it's such an honor to be able to speak with someone of like mind, and that, even though we're in different parts of the world, we are one. We are on the same path, and it's great to always talk, because it's hard. I mean, most of the people I speak with, they're good people, but they don't talk about these things, and they're pretty much glazing over after the first 5 minutes of talking of these things. And so it's a privilege for me to be able to sit and have this kind of a conversation with someone such as yourself. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. And I also just wanted to see if the last few minutes, if you had any final thoughts or anything that you really wanted to get out to people, or maybe that you haven't said, or you just want to reiterate. Is there any final sort of thoughts that you wanted to close with?
Well, I'd like to encourage one and all, regardless of what level of consciousness they are at, or what level of understanding of this beautiful consciousess shift that's coming, and whatever level of knowledge they have, it doesn't matter. You can be an ignoramus in one sense, in terms of education and everything like that. Doesn't matter. Wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, genius or non-genius, apply yourself to the good and the beautiful, because that's the highest things that we can reach for. That's what God is, the good and the beautiful. Apply yourself to a life of moderation and continence, and of virtue. Shed the vices. You might think that you're not an angry person, and yet you are. You might think that you're not a jealous person, and yet you are. Look deep within to see what's actually motivating this body, because if it's any of those acidic things, you will not ascend. So go in the middle, and be moderate in habits, and calm and tranquil, and live for the good.
Wow.
And that's about it. The rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. Oh, and I completely agree with that. I completely resonate with it. And like you said, everything is energy, and when you align that positive energy, which is it's a high frequency energy, you're creating. You're literally, that's how we're saying you're creating your reality. This is where it starts, is on an energetic level, going into the heart, and it's amazing how, for myself, it was one thing to say this, it was another thing to put it into action. And the more I've always tried to keep putting these things into action and consciously go, I want to walk this path towards the good, and all of that, I really find that it brings about an incredible synchronicity in your life. And it really does change you. It's real results, not the results that the churches are promising you, and you still have all these people that are there that are still depressed. They're still on, all these different drugs and things, and they're still very greedy, and they exhibit habits of people that are not conscious. Those aren't real solutions. The real solutions are like what you said, and it is that simple. And I definitely agree with you that it really isn't as difficult as it's always made out to be, So that's fantastic. Well, Santos, like I said again, thank you so much. I'd be honored if we could do this again sometime. And if you're ever thinking about coming down this way at all, definitely let me know. I'd be happy to do whatever I can to help you out with any kind of workshops that you'd want to do or anything like that, because I think this message is important to get out. And I'm just trying to do my part here, and I just want to tell everybody as well, like, I'm just a regular guy. I'm nobody. I'm not receiving messages from some angel or some ET, or I'm not a PhD. I'm not I'm just a regular person that is on that path of seeking truth. And if I can do it, and Santos, you can do it, I think that anybody can do it, and we really need to go ahead with that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I will do that. If I do come, I'll be letting everybody know. And I want to. I really want to go to Canada. So who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if there's anything I can help you out with, please let me know. And once again, it's been a great conversation, Santos, and I really thank you and appreciate your time.
Beautiful. Thanks, brother.
All right.
And we'll do it again some other time.
Sounds great, Santos. Have a great day, okay?
Cheers, man.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.